Hello, Sagittarius, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day. This will be your weekly reading for the first week in March, from March 1st through the 7th. And during that time, we have a waxing gibbous energy that we bring in from the last week. And a waxing gibbous is a good time to demonstrate our flexibility and make adjustments in those things that we've started during the new moon. We then move into the full moon energy, which is on the 3rd officially, but I can feel that sometimes the day before and after. That full moon energy can be really big. And of course, that's a time of heightened emotions. You might feel a little overwhelmed and anxious, maybe irritable. Some people are. You might have changes in your sleeping patterns, but it is a good time for us to release any resentment or fears that we've been having, and also to practice patience and calm when that crazy energy comes about. So please pay attention to those moon energies as we move through the week. This will be an intuitive general reading for the energies that you may or may not encounter, Sagittarius. So, as always, please take what resonates today and leave what doesn't for someone else. And your overall message for this particular reading is you and your loved ones are safe. All right, let's see what the Sagittarius Collective has going on for the week. As I'm shuffling, my fun weekly reminder this week is that you keep a spiritual journal. Sometimes we don't recognize the patterns that are evolving in our spiritual life. And so keeping a journal of those things, and this could be journaling dreams that you're having that seem important, things that you're learning. I like to journal those things as well, experiences that you're having. But it's very interesting to go be able to look back in time sometimes and think, oh, that's when I learned that, and I've applied that. I've been applying that to my life, and I'm seeing results. Or, oops, I forgot to apply that thing that I was learning. That's one that I do a lot. Like, oh, I was going to do that, totally forgot. So, keeping a spiritual journal, it's just a great way to be able to look back on those emerging patterns and use them as a tool as you're evolving spiritually. So, please keep that in mind. That's my fun weekly reminder for you this week. All right, let's get into this reading. Sagittarius, March 1st through the 7th. With a full moon in there, you and your loved ones are safe. And your overall present energy right now is the 7 of Cups. So this is a cup of choices. And I always like to say that choice is a luxury. When you have many, many, many choices, sometimes in life you don't. So when you have this kind of choice, it's a luxury, and use it wisely and choose very well. Really think about the things that you're choosing for your life, and are they moving you in the direction that you want to go to long term, because there's things in here that we can there's a snake in here. There's like this weird little, I'm not even sure what that little creature is. There's pride in there. So really, when we're making different choices in life, when you have that many choices, especially when it comes to ways to feel, ways of being, just make sure you're making the right choices for you, for what you want, for the bigger picture. Your current situation right now is the 6 of Cups. So look at all the cups coming out. Now, sixes are about nostalgia. Sometimes this can be, just your mind kind of hearkening back to, you know, a, a time, when you were younger, or thinking back through family things. And, sometimes you just get caught in the moment where you're having a memory, and good or bad, it can be either or. But it looks like there's something having to do with your past that's coming up, that's making you have some choices. You might be thinking about your past and how to make choices. A lot of times we're trying to improve on where we came from. So we're trying to make better choices, or we have had really good examples and we're trying to make the same choices that maybe are great examples as parents or family members or whoever around us. We're trying to emulate those people. So keep that in mind as you're going through your week. At the root of your situation is some sort of decision. This makes sense. This really makes sense. This is when we have the 2 of Swords here. It's about no decision until you're thinking something through. So I see you having some choices in front of you. And again, you're reaching back into your past. Like, how should you choose? And, we've all got great and bad examples, I'm sure, in our past. We've had people that were our heroes and people that we were like, oh, I don't want to do that. So if those things are coming into mind for you, that makes total sense. And just again, make sure that you are making the best choices for your big picture, Sagittarius. In your recent past, here is the Ace of Swords. So you've had some sort of mental breakthrough and some sort of aha moment that might be leading you to this choice to decide, you know what, I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm going to choose differently. I'm going to make my life better. And I'm using this from the negative context. You might think I'm not making these same mistakes that people in my past did, and a lot of us do that. A lot of us are trying to, again, improve. I hope my kids learn from mistakes that I've made and then improve on those mistakes and get better, right? So that's a good thing. But it looks like you have had some sort of mental breakthrough or some sort of idea or moment that's coming about that's making you want to choose a little bit differently. On your mind this week, Sagittarius, is the devil. So this could be, the first thing that comes to mind, especially with this sort of thing, is addiction and dependency. I think that's something that a lot of people do have to struggle with, that you might have seen that in your past or had to live with that. And you do want to choose differently. You decide, I'm not choosing that for my life, and I want to move forward without any sort of addiction or dependency. And that's a great choice to make. It's just sometimes you do have to just be very conscious about it and make that choice. So sometimes these things go on for generations. But the devil also can be about lack of confidence. It could be fear of failure, different insecurities that are coming up, false fears. You might have a fear of success. So, there's lots of things. The devil is about being closed minded and maybe a little obsessive and denial about something. Something could be distracting you from what it is that you really, really want, or the choices that you really need to be making. So, the devil can also be about procrastination, making those excuses to not do things. So, make sure that you're really holding that mirror up to yourself, and really, you have to know thyself. That's it's something that's very important, is really know yourself, so that you know the best decisions to make, and so that you can drown out the voice of that devil on your ear telling you those negative, false things. What is just ahead of you this week is the Knight of Cups. So it looks like you're going to take some sort of emotional action when it comes through. At least you're moving through into your future being open-minded about something. Again, if you've had to think about these cups, if it's taken you back to your past, this is probably you making that decision that I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. It could be just be emotionally, that maybe somebody in your past was closed off emotionally, and you make that decision. I want to be better. I want to live with an open heart, and be able to express myself to the people around me. So if that's happening for you, that's great, I believe. In your advice position, Sagittarius, is the Four of Pentacles. So you're doing this while being very stable. A lot of times this is the card of, stable money, material things, of course. But I think for this reading, I would even say it goes beyond those material things. And being materially stable it puts you in a place where you can think a little bit deeper about your choices and about the things that you're doing. So the advice is to maybe hold on to that. Make sure you've got that kind of stability, so that you can go, again, a little deeper, ask these deeper questions of yourself, really know yourself, and really know how you do want to move forward in the future. What is beyond your control this week is the Hierophant. So this is about seeking guidance. And this always cracks me up in tarot readings when it's a reading like this, which to me is about doing better on the big picture. And so, of course, a lot of people, and me included, would go to, the Hierophant card is about some sort of spiritual guidance. And so maybe that's why you're at a tarot reading right now and listening to this. It could be why you're reading certain books, or why you decide to go to church this week. There's something that you're seeking, and that's beyond your control, because you're thinking these deeper thoughts, and you do want to move forward better, and probably within your spiritual life. So like I said at the beginning, keeping a journal is such a good thing. Whatever it is you're learning this week, make sure that you journal that, and in years you're going to look back and say, oh, I remember when I made that change to be more open, emotionally, when I decided to share who I am emotionally with the people around me, and look how much it's changed my life. So it's beyond your control that you would be seeking some sort of spiritual guidance this week. So good for you. Secret desire, or what are you trying to avoid, is the King of Cups. So the King of Cups is someone who is very in control and knowledgeable about their own emotions, their own cups. I mean, look at his robe here, just covered in the blue of water, and look at that foot of his on terra firma, but also right into that water. He is completely balanced and in control of his emotions, but also, the interesting thing I believe about the royalty in the decks are that they understand not only their use and control and knowledge about emotional things or things that they're learning, but now it opens up their eyes to look at their constituents, and it kind of makes you more empathetic in a way, because once you learn, oh, I want to open my heart and be, um, be different with the people around me. Now you can kind of see the people around you, and maybe if they're not that open, you understand why, you have that empathy for them, and you can kind of be a guiding light for them, be a really great example. Or if they are open, you really do appreciate that. Like, the work that it goes through to be that. So this is your big question of the week. Is it your secret desire to be that way, to understand and have that knowledge about not only your emotions, but also the people around you? Or are you completely trying to avoid that? I'm going to say I would lead from the rest of this reading that is, this is your secret desire, but it is a question that you have to answer for yourself, of course. In your outcome position, Sagittarius, is, look at this, the Three of Pentacles. So coming together with all of this with others in a creative way, to maybe push something forward. We're talking about, this is usually coming together like in a work sense or a creative sense to create something together, but it is definitely people that are able to talk and be open. And I really just feel like this is, one of the few cards in the deck that could really put that thought, put what this action is together. Yeah, that these are people talking openly, being very friendly, and working on something that's very creative together. And you can put that in many different ways. So let's see if we have any repeaters. I don't see any for you. What's hidden from you this week, Sagittarius, is that things are happening rapidly. So these things that are happening to you, I feel like they're slow. They're very pensive. This is I'm not even seeing where like intuition is coming into play. It's just that you're really thinking about the things that the devil represents, and you're trying to decide how to do it differently. And I think, again, that's a spiritual thing to be doing. It's something that we all come up against at different times, but I don't see that it's things are happening quickly. It's almost like a slow roll. Like, you're really taking the time every day to think about this particular issue, so that you know how you really want to move forward. And it's not like there's a lot of activity or new information. It's like information that you already have at your fingertips. So let's get a final message here from the Soul Oracle deck. Final message for Sagittarius as they make these choices this week and make the best choices for them. Sagittarius, March 1 through 7. All right, right there. Count your blessings. That's always great advice. Being grateful is, that's another thing that you can put in your journal. Just make a list, because that comes into making those decisions. What are you already grateful for, and what do you want to add to enhance whatever's going on in your life at the moment. Let's see what you need to do in the way of self-care this week, Sagittarius. How do you need to take care of yourself as you're going through? I mean, I already have an idea. We'll see what the card says. Sagittarius, March 1st through the 7th. Rebel is the card. And I was thinking more of like a cup of coffee or tea, where you can be very pensive, but the cards were thinking another thing there. Excuse me. Okay. This card says, it's time to celebrate the fact that you don't fit in. Stand on your own 2 feet. That's very interesting too, because, I'm thinking about this in a family context, and sometimes you do have to be the rebel, and I just think of like, if you're talking about addiction, if you are surrounded by just everybody who drinks and parties and that kind of life and those kind of people, and it's, you would be the rebel if you stand out and go, you know what, I'm not living that life. I don't want to live that way. I want to live a little cleaner, not be in the bar every night on a, it's so, that is a way to be a rebel as well. And a lot of people go through that. So if that is your situation, good for you. Do the thing that you want to do, living a deeper, richer life. There's more to life than, at the end of a bottle or in the bar, honestly. So again, it's not strange that you would be seeking out some sort of advice here. Let me grab my coffee. Also, anytime I feel a little tickle in my throat as I'm doing a reading, it reminds me to tell you there's probably something on this that you are going to have to speak up about. anytime I kind of feel that little frog in my throat, there might be some things that you do need to speak up in a certain way about. So, Sagittarius, I wish you the best of luck. Once again, your overall was you and your loved ones are safe no matter what you do, no matter what choices you make. Things are good. It looks like things are very stable for you. So, you're working on parts of your life that maybe you just haven't had the stability to have time to do that. And so I applaud you for that. It's a great thing to do once you kind of get your house set up, you got your job and your house and everything's going well. It is time to look around and say, how now do I want to improve even more? So that's a great thing for you to be doing this week. So, Sagittarius, thank you so much for being here. I hope there's something that you can take away in this reading and use in your life in a positive way. If you're comfortable sharing, of course, drop me a comment down below and let me know if there's anything like this going on with you right now. Maybe this template's in a different way over your life, but it does seem like you are working on some things, and I think that's pretty incredible. Also, if you like my reading style, hitting like and subscribe will let you find me next week, where you can come back and we can see if this energy continues or if there's something completely new here for you next week. So, thanks so much. Good luck with this, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.